Hi everyone, so today we're going to have a look at object-oriented programming with Java. This is an introduction to this concept. As you can see here on the left side of my screen, I have a student. And as we know, in Java, I can create variables in memory to store information about a student. For example, string sname is equal to something. So Barry, and int sage is equal to 21, and let's say double GPA is equal to 3.5. So now I'm setting up some information in memory to help me manage information about the student. Wouldn't it be great if I could do this? This is my data type. This is the name of the variable. And this is, I'm setting up a new student object. And actually, what I want to tell this object is, your name is Barry, you are 21 years old, and your GPA is 3.5. So later in my code, I can do system.out.print Barry dot, for example, Barry dot name. And when I run that line of code, Barry's name, Barry with a capital B, will be displayed on the screen. Okay? And if we look at what we've got in memory, when all this happens, especially this line of code here, we've got a little pointer here called, what did I call it? I called it Barry with a small b. And this points to a larger slice of memory which has some data, which is, let's just do that again. The data is Barry 21 3.5. So here we've got some data, and there may be some methods here which will allow me to play with the data. So we'll look at some sample methods soon, whatever they are. Wouldn't that be great? If instead of having all this in my main program, I can just set up an object. This is a student object, which I'm calling Barry, and it creates a new student object. And it gives it some data as it's being created. Okay, so this data here we're going to refer to as parameters. So here we have 3 parameters that are being passed into the object to help us construct the object. So here we're kind of constructing an object. So let's just construct an object. And that's exactly what we're doing with this magical piece of code here. Now, the next obvious question is, how do we do this? How can we create a data type which is not a string, it's not an integer, and it's not a double, it's a student. This is a data type. This thing here points to student objects, student data. Well, let's have a look at how to do that in Java. I've just been messing around with it, so I'm just going to delete that for a minute, and I'll delete that. Let's just start from the beginning with this so you know what I'm doing. So this is my main program, and I've already decided that I'm going to try and do this. Okay, this is what I want to do. The problem is I have not defined what a student is yet. It doesn't exist. I haven't written the code which defines student objects. Maybe somebody has, but I don't have access to it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to define it myself. File, new, file. It's just going to be a Java class called student. And here we have my class called student. Now check this out. Do you see this method here? Student, round bracket, round bracket. Well, look, let's go back to my main program. Student, round bracket, round bracket. This method here is this method here. And this is called the constructor method. And when I say new student, Java comes to this file and it looks for this method. This is the constructor method. And this tells Java how to create a student object. Okay? So we'll look at this again in a minute. Now we also know that any student object has 3 variables. One of them is a string, one of them is an integer, and one of them is a double. Okay? Now the first trick that I've got to figure out is, from my main program, how do I get this data into these variables? Well, actually, I can use the constructor method. And in my definition file, I have to clearly define how the constructor method works. So when I say clearly define, I mean I need to give the data types. Okay. So here I'm telling the student method you are going to receive 3 pieces of data. And when you get those 3 pieces of data, I want you to assign each piece of data to the student object data. Okay? So we're going to say name is equal to name. But that is very confusing because they've got the same variable name. So I'm just going to change this one to be a little bit different. Let's call it sname for student name. Let's call that sage for student age. And let's call that GPA. So name is going to be assigned sname. And age is going to be assigned this thing that's being passed into the student method. Now, in my example, that is 21. So age equals sage, and GPA is equal to SGPA. Brilliant! So, what I have just done is, when I construct a student, I pass, or the programmer passes 3 pieces of data to the new student object. And that data is assigned to the variables that relate to students. Okay? Now that might take you a little bit of time to get used to, but this is how object-oriented programming works. Okay? So back to my main program, what I'm going to do is system.out.print Barry, because that's the name of my student pointer, Barry dot what? Barry dot name. Barry dot name. We're just going to build my project. and then we're going to run the project, and hopefully everything will be fine. Barry. Let's just extend that a little bit. Barry.name plus, we'll just put a space in there, plus Barry.age plus, and we'll just put another space, plus Barry.gpa. So we're going to print out the name, the age, and the GPA of Barry. So let's just build all that. And then we're going to run all that. And let's see if we get Barry 21 3.5. Barry 21 3.5. Now, of course, we can use all of this in an if statement. If Barry.gpa is greater than 4 system.out.print Barry.name plus is smart. Else, just get rid of this. Barry isn't so smart. Okay? So if this thing that I've created here, which is Barry, it is a new student object, and I'm going to access the GPA variable, which is part of a student object. This is the student object, and here is the GPA variable of students. So let's build that, and let's run that. It's going to look a bit messy because I left in this line of code here, a bit silly. But anyway, Barry 21 3.5, that's that bit. And then we get to this bit. If Barry's GPA is greater than 4, so what it's saying is Barry isn't so smart, because Barry's GPA is only 3.5. Now what I can do, let's just clear away all this junk. I'm going to create another student object called Harry. Equals new student. And remember, the student constructor method requires 3 pieces of information, these 3 parameters. So I need to give these 3 parameters to the program when I construct it, when I construct a student object. And this is going to be Harry. And then we're going to say if Barry.gpa is greater than Harry.gpa, system.out.print Barry is smarter than Harry. Else, just get rid of this junk again. Harry is smarter than Barry. And we'll just build all that. And we'll run it. So it's telling me that Harry is smarter than Barry. And if I look at the Harry variable here, his GPA is 4.5 and Barry is 3.5. So yes, Harry is smarter than Barry.